Hello, people online. I wanted to share a little bit about not spiraling into negative emotions, especially if you are someone who struggles with chronic illness. So I worked 7 hours yesterday, which isn't a lot, I guess, for Americans. The average shift is 6 to 8 hours. I was doing a floor set for a company, just like rearranging a retail space. And there was a lot of bending down, and I got close to throwing up my back last night, and I was just in so much pain by 1 a.m. when I left that, I cried when I got home. And it wasn't just because I was in pain, it was because I was grieving the loss of my able body that I once had that could go and do a floor set for 7 hours and feel, tired, but not like I was dying, you know? And it was just so much worse than it's ever been for me. And so that was what was most upsetting to me. And I caught myself starting to have similar thoughts that would lead to spiral thoughts. And so if you don't know, in life, in our mental cognition, we can have downward spirals or upward spirals. For me, a lot of them have been downward. So that's where you have one thought that's negative, and then it jumps to another negative thought that maybe is a bit more negative and or pointed more towards you rather than the situation, and that spirals into another negative thought, and so on. And then obviously an upward spiral is the same but with positive thoughts. And so emotional states, our mental state is constantly moving, so the more we can try to spiral upward rather than downward, the better of an experience we have, right? Of course, it's great to not spiral anyway and just stay stable, but that's not really realistic, I feel like, for life. And plus, though, if everything was stable and neutral all the time, we'd all be bored to death. Don't lie to yourself. But so, I caught myself starting to go into a negative spiral, a downward spiral, and really just growing awareness of your inner thoughts without judgment first, I feel like, is really key, because if you start to feel bad noticing yourself going into a downward spiral, it actually makes it harder to get out. Whereas if you can neutrally just observe yourself and be like, oh yes, this is a kind of thought that will lead to another negative thought, and you're not judging yourself for that, it's easier to then choose without shame and be like, look, I'm just going to pick a more positive thought and start a positive spiral instead. And so something that can really help with that, other than the growing the self-awareness, something that can help from going into the negative spirals is that jumping to a positive upward spiral instead. So I caught myself thinking, wow, I really hate my body. It just doesn't work the same as it once did. And I looked at it and I didn't judge myself for having that negative thought. Instead, I validated it and I said, yeah, I feel that way. But also, too, I do still have a body that can go into a floor set for 7 hours, even if it causes me immense pain for days afterwards. I still am capable, technically. And that was a more positive outlook of that same thought, right? But that leads into a more positive spiral. And so from then, too, something that can help are gratitude lists. You don't even have to write it out. Sometimes it helps when you're feeling really down to just write it out, but I do this mentally constantly, honestly, because it helps me to create upward spirals of emotional behaviors and stuff. So I thought about, well, what parts of my body am I grateful for? I'm grateful for having hands that can paint, and arms that can hug my son, and eyes that can see decent enough to get me around. And you just, from there, you build on. And when you're in that present moment of gratitude, I find personally that I am not capable of necessarily downward spiraling right then and there. Because, you can really only think so much at a time. Granted, obviously we can have multiple thoughts going on at once, but present experience is something that kind of limits, I think, thought capacity when we're experiencing something so fully. We're not necessarily thinking abstractly about it, you know? But so yeah, I just kind of wanted to share a little bit of that because this today could have gone way differently because I woke up in a lot of pain and I caught the negative, right? And I saw how that negative thought wanted to lead to another negative thought, and I was like, I don't really want to like go down this path today. I don't want to have a bad day. Last night was already rough enough, and so I, through my practice of being self-aware of my thoughts happening, was able to consciously redirect to more positive thoughts that will spiral into other positive thoughts. And I don't really feel like I'm in a crappy mood today. I mean, yes, my back hurts. Yes, it's raining, so I don't get to go swimming today like I'd planned. Because this is the weirdest summer weather ever. But also, yes, and I also still have a body that functions more than others, and that's something to not take for granted. So, just wanted to share one little positive thought can spiral into a bunch of positive thoughts, and that can make for a better day. So if you find yourself having a negative thought that's leading to another negative thought, first, don't judge yourself for it, because that's just part of being human, and we look for patterns and we look for things that are alike. And so if we're tuned our frequency to look for these negative things for the day, we will find them because we're just that good. Right? So tune yourself to something more positive. Compliment yourself. Tell yourself that you're proud. Give yourself credit for something hard that you did or something easy that you did even. Just say it out loud sometimes. Say, hey, I did a good job, getting up on time for work. Because you did. And the less you put it out there and say it, the more easy it is to take yourself for granted. So, it may seem silly, but just put yourself on that positive spiral and you will have a more pleasant experience. It doesn't necessarily change everything, but it does in a way. Have a good one, guys. Bye.